Hey guys, welcome to Young Mindset. This is a channel where we interview people's businesses and career paths. Hi, my name is Arlen.
And my name is Fraze. Our guest is Matthew. How are you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
And I'd like to start off with the first question that I usually like to ask because, at least, from my perspective, that, people who are, generally successful, that they never usually have a boring backstory. So how about you just start by telling me a little bit about your backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. So going all the way back to my academic days and my younger days, I studied engineering in my undergrad years, and it was something that my parents influenced me about quite a bit. They always felt like my dad worked in finance. But despite that, and knowing that I wanted to get into finance, he always talked to me about, hey, an engineering degree is a good way to go. Gives you a lot of those quantitative skills that you can use, whether it's engineering or in finance. So he kind of pushed me in that direction to study engineering. So that's what I ultimately chose for my undergrad. But at the same time, I knew that finance was kind of where my passion was, and that was the direction I wanted to go for my career. So coming out of college, I spent a few years at Lehman Brothers in a variety of different roles, in Treasury, in a fixed income trading role. And ultimately, I decided that wasn't necessarily for me long term, and so I moved to Prudential in 2008 in the retirement business. And so within the retirement business, it was a pretty capital markets, finance focused type of role that I learned the company and kind of grew into that role and really got to understand what Prudential was all about. And so I spent a few years in the retirement area, and then between 2011 and 2020 or so, spent about 9 years in Prudential's finance organization, primarily within Treasury. So it was covering a number of different areas across the enterprise. And then lastly, for my last few years in finance, it was my role was specific to the annuities finance area. So it was really about understanding what the earnings were like and the financial profile was across the entire Prudential enterprise, as well as focusing on things like how much capital do we need to hold to support the different risks and the different businesses that Prudential has. And so in those last few years within the finance organization, I got to know the annuities business quite well. And the annuities business, really think about it as it's a product sold to individuals to help them plan for retirement, as well as help them make sure they have enough money throughout their retirement years. So it's a product and a business that serves individuals to help really make their financial lives a little bit better in leading up to retirement in those retirement years. And so I felt very connected to the mission of Pru in general, but also to that business. Knowing the annuities business benefited me in, my parents are retired, so I was able to help them do some of their retirement planning with my knowledge. I have friends whose parents are similar age to my parents. I was able to give them some advice on what to do with the chunk of money they got after we sold the house and things like that. So I felt like it was really rewarding, and it really connected with what I wanted to do with my career in terms of helping people through that financial lens. And so about a year or so ago, I was offered a position within the annuities business, but within product development. So not specific to understanding the financials, although the financials are always important. It was more focused on product development and what products could we bring to the market that would serve the consumers really well? What products could we sell profitably and help the business grow and things like that? So it was a different lens for me. It was an area that I thought that I could really learn and grow in. And so that's been consistent with my focus for my entire career. I always want to be learning, always want to be growing, and always want to be maximizing the value that I can add to my roles and to the people around me. And so I find that I do that best when I'm challenged and engaged by learning and being able to really feel like I'm getting as much out of the role as I'm putting into it. And so this was a really nice fit for me to broaden my horizons. And I've been in the role almost a year now, shade over 9 months, about 10 months or so. And I feel like it's really accomplished all of those goals. Still have a lot to learn, but I've really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to more time in this role.
And my question, how did you end up stumbling into annuities?
Yes, so Peru is a really interesting place with regards to kind of talent mindset. So there's a big everyone is encouraged to think about their careers, own their careers, and Prudential is such a big company that you can do a lot of different things and really try out a lot of different businesses, a lot of different functions, and really learn and continue to grow. So I will say that Prudential is unique and fantastic in that regard. I don't know of too many other companies that really encourage that type of internal mobility. And so, over the years, as I've thought about where I wanted to go with my career, what I wanted to learn and grow in, annuities was one of the businesses that I became interested in. And so I actively sought positions in some of those areas that I would be interested in, and felt like I could really add value, but also that I connected with the mission, and so annuities fit that bill for me quite well.
Just for those people that don't know what an annuity is, can you give us a brief explanation?
Yeah, sure. So think about an annuity as a financial services product that helps you manage your money leading up to retirement, as well as in your retirement years. So there's a couple phases that annuities can help with. So there's kind of your pre-retirement years, where leading up to retirement, you can purchase an annuity product that lets you invest your money, whatever you choose to put into that vehicle. It lets you invest your money in a number of different ways to help you optimize the growth of your assets. So let's take, for example, you're a 40-year-old who's starting to think about retirement a little bit. You've got about 25 years until you retire, and you say, hey, I want to start planning for my retirement. Let me buy an annuity, which means you're putting X number of dollars into that annuity product. And with those X dollars, you're choosing different types of investments, and you're growing that investment up to whatever it might be over the next 25 years. And then at age 65, you're starting to, you decide to retire, and you leave your job, and now you're taking that annuity and starting to decumulate, so starting to withdraw from that investment vehicle, and the annuity helps you to withdraw a certain amount for the rest of your life. So even if you live until you're 120 years old, you get that longevity protection. You'll have those payments every month or every quarter, whatever you choose, depending on the product, for the rest of your life. So it protects you to make sure you have enough money for as long as you live. So those are the two main features that annuities provide as a general rule of thumb. All different companies such as Prudential sell many different flavors of annuities, but that's effectively the function of an annuity, what it's trying to do.
One other question about annuities. So let's say maybe you have like a wife or a kid, can they inherit your product?
Yeah, so there's different features that you can purchase, and so there are a number of different ways that you can decumulate. So in the example that you mentioned, you can make it so that even if you passed, your spouse could continue to get payments that you basically signed up for. It's not usually for your child, but your spouse usually can get it's called a spousal option. Your spouse can continue to get payments for the rest of his or her life.
So, like, I remember you mentioned that that Prudential offers like many different types of annuities. So, like, what would you say is like some, I guess, criteria that I guess maybe you would ask like a customer to help them find the best type of product?
Yeah, so when it comes to the specific product and what's the best fit, annuities are sold through advisors, financial advisors. And so it's really important for that financial advisor to have a conversation with his or her customer to determine what his or her customer's financial situation is, what they're looking to do, what their goals are, and things like that. Of course, how old they are, how much income they have, how much assets they have. So it's very individualized, and so it's incumbent upon the advisor and their customer to have that conversation and figure out what's the most appropriate fit. It's not a one size fits all type of solution.
Kind of going back to Lehman Brothers, I'm kind of curious. What did you do, and why did you leave Lehman Brothers to Prudential?
So I had a couple different jobs within Lehman Brothers. I worked in Treasury on their funding desk, which was basically managing a pool of cash and liquidity by investing in short term and also raising money through any debt and equity issuance. So that was one of my roles. And also for about the last year and a half or so that I was at Lehman, I also traded fixed income. So I was a bond trader within the fixed income division. Ultimately, I think I decided that bond trading wasn't going to be something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted to work in a different kind of business, something that to me was a little bit broader in nature, and that I felt like I connected with the mission of the company. So that was ultimately kind of why I sought a career change in that regard. And Prudential had a great reputation for all of those things, and they served a customer base and had a mission that I felt like I could really connect with. And so to me, there was a strong alignment between personal and professional values, which for me was really important in looking for my career change.
I actually have a quick question about like treasuries, because at least from what I heard, like especially like maybe like 10-year treasuries, that like that could be of like certain things like stock market confidence. They could also be an indicator of like mortgage rates. Is that true?
So I won't pretend to be an economist or a fixed income strategist, but usually the 10-year Treasury rate is an indication of a number of things. So I'll try to provide some general directional commentary, but the 10-year Treasury rate is indicative of how healthy the economy might be, and so a higher rate oftentimes will signal growth of the economy. But that's just one criteria. It also can signal the amount of inflation that might be coming through in the next 10 years, things like that. So when interest rates are very, very low, that could be the market saying that the economy is not going to grow at a very fast pace, but it could also mean that people view that interest rates in general are just going to stay low because the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates very low. So there's a number of things that factor into it, but I would say as a general rule of thumb, the 10-year Treasury, a 30-year Treasury yield is an indication of the pace of growth of the economy in general.
Okay. And I just have like another question going a little bit back to your background. You said that you mentioned that you took the engineer route and then you went to graduate school for finance. And I wanted to know, like, do you feel like that background helped you get your job in Lehman Brothers and also your future career opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to my first point about kind of those quantitative problem-solving skills, I absolutely feel like I learned a lot in my engineering classes, helped me problem solve quite a bit. And even though I don't apply the specific subject matter that I learned in the classroom, it's done a lot for me in terms of helping me think through problem solving, critical thinking, how to use numbers to analyze information, how to draw insights from those numbers. I think a lot of that goes back to my academic training.
And I know you said so when you're going back to engineering that your father kind of pushed on engineering, but you were always passionate about finance. Why were you so passionate about finance? What you like about the finance field?
I guess in my younger days, I mean, as much as I could understand it, in my teenage years, I guess I was always kind of, I thought of myself as a numbers person, and so I enjoyed. I was quite certain I was going to go into a profession that was focused on or numbers oriented, and so engineering could have been one of those things. I guess I just felt like, again, my dad worked in finance for his career. And I guess in some ways I was drawn to it for that reason, but I was also interested in the stock market when I was younger, in the capital markets, for whatever reason. You know, I can't say I can put my finger on it 100%, but I guess there was always kind of a connection, whether it was through my dad's background or through the things that I had seen and been exposed to. I felt like finance was a good track for me.
And you also said you worked at Wall Street, right?
When I was at Lehman.
Oh, okay. That's pretty interesting. Hey, Frankie, do you have? Yep.
Yeah, I had a question, like going more about your background about and as an engineer. So, do you feel like this is something like potentially like a route that, a lot of people like who's thinking about going to college could take and then maybe pursuing like some other trade in the future, like for example, business or finance? Like the reason I'm asking this because like I noticed a trend that, like a lot of CEOs or engine came from like an engineer background. It maybe it's because they have that problem solving ability that they got from their undergrad.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's a common thought that you will apply what you learn into your profession. I think that's true, but maybe to a lesser degree than how most people would think about it. To me, it's all about learning the right skills and being armed with the right thinking abilities and the right problem solving abilities. And those skills and abilities will apply in many different ways. So I think knowledge can always be learned in a relatively short amount of time, but skills take a very long time to learn and hone and get better at. So to me, engineering and studying engineering for 4 years and taking a lot of those math and stats and engineering types of classes helped me build the foundation for those skills. Now, I won't ever say that I'm not still learning. I'm learning every day to build those skills, but it gave me a strong foundation to start from. And so it allowed me to build on those skills quite a bit in the workplace. So even though I don't apply my engineering learnings per se, I apply those critical thinking and those problem solving skills every single day, and I continue to build on that foundation. So that's where I think it's important to differentiate. When you go to school, are you going for whatever class you take? Are you going to build those skills, or are you going to build on knowledge? Because to me, if you can find some direction in school where you can really learn skills that you can build on, it's tremendously important, and so it allows you to go to a lot of different places. And for me, that's kind of been the approach that I've taken.
Okay. Do you feel like you might have to go like to like an engineer school in order to get like those skills, or do you think that someone could like self-learn them themselves?
I guess it's I think you can learn anything you put your mind to, but it certainly doesn't hurt if you know you want to work in a quantitative type of profession to take advantage of your college years to build on that. So there are plenty of people who work in finance, and there are probably plenty of engineers who may not have studied engineering per se at school, and they're doing well in their respective professions. But I do think it's helpful to start building those skills when you're in college. It's not a must, but it also doesn't hurt.
Okay.
And what kind of skills would you say, just going into that field, what kind of skills would you say that person, would need or might, like the mindset that they might want to have when they go into this direction, as a financial major and an engineer major?
Yeah, I guess it's I mean, you always want to be learning. I think that's one of the main ones, so from a mindset perspective, you never stop learning. So I think that's really, really critical. Another mindset is, as part of you never stop learning, don't ever assume that you've mastered anything. Like I said, I've worked I've worked at Prudential for 13 years. And I've worked in financial services my entire career, and I'm learning new things every single day. So I think those are two really important mindsets to always have, no matter what field you're in. I guess the other part of it specific to finances, again, I keep going back to those critical thinking and those problem solving skills. So worry less early on about the subject matter, worry more about building out those problem solving and those critical thinking skills that can be applied to a lot of different things, as opposed to being too narrowly focused on one set of subject matter or one way of how to do something. It's more about, hey, what range of things can your skills be applied to?
And in terms as to what do you do, in annuities, do you think that you need like a certain communication skills or people skills? And would you say that you learned that during school or just during the job?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that to be successful in any career, you've got to have a pretty strong set of interpersonal skills ultimately, and so I think leadership, those interpersonal skills, communication skills, presentation skills are all fantastic to build up. They may not be as critical from day one, but I think they become pretty critical pretty fast. And so yeah, I mean, I would say that an engineering degree, at least my background, I wasn't necessarily very focused on those things. In every 4 years of college or anyone's academic career, they probably do some presentations in school and things like that, and maybe some extracurriculars give you a chance to lead or present. I would say those are good opportunities to start building on some of those skills. At least for me, that was not a main part of what I focused on in my academic undergrad career. I did it. Maybe I didn't think about it quite as much. And so for me, it was really kind of building out those skills as I moved forward in my career, as I took on roles where those interpersonal, those leadership skills became more and more important. And it was kind of learning on the job. And had some great coaches, had some great mentors along the way who helped guide me in that regard.
Great. Hey, Frankie, do you have another question?
I had like sort of a question. So when you landed your job like in Lehman Brothers, like what would you say, like, I guess, helped you the most? Like, for example, because I know, because you were actually my coach early on, and you helped me a lot by fixing my resume, helping me with interview practices, and do you feel like that's really key? And then plus like networking.
Yeah, so it's going back a ways. I'm trying to think how I landed my job at Lehman Brothers. I actually don't remember as clearly anymore, but I mean, I do think kind of a lot of the things that your school and your and any mentors or coaches that you have help you with in terms of being polished in your interviews, having a resume that really hits the right points, a resume that looks nice, is appropriate for the role that you're applying to, has some of those skills that a manager would want to see, things like that. All those things I think are kind of table stakes, I'll say, to get started. And then I think within the interview process, to me, it's just having a certain amount of passion, showing that you have the right skills to do the job, but they also have the skills to do the next job and potentially the job after that, so that someone sees that potential in you, not just so that you can get this job done, but that you can keep growing in the company or keep growing beyond that role. So there's kind of what I would say is the foundation of a successful job search in terms of having a good resume that caters to the role. There are those base background and interview skills that you need to have, and then going above and beyond that to really kind of give yourself a good chance. It's showcasing all the skills that you can do beyond that next job, showing that passion, that connection to the role of the company, the mission, and the potential that you could have down the road. I think those are all important kind of next level of skills to have through the job search process.
Okay. So, I mean, another question, like going off of that is like, maybe like you work with like new associates and like new interns. Like, what would you say is probably the best quality that they have that makes them stay within the company?
I think there's a number of things, and this is going to vary by role, of course. So I'll use my experience primarily within the roles that I've had, and so about said earlier, also their ability to connect the dots across different parts of the company. So if they're working on multiple projects, hey, how does this project relate to that project, and what's the impact of the two projects, and what do they have on each other? So those are some of the things. And then one of the main things that my coaches and mentors have always pushed for me to ask is, the so what question. You're working on a particular project. So what? What does it mean for what the company's ultimately trying to do, or the business is trying to do? Connect what your project is doing and what impact it has on the rest of the greater business or the greater company, whatever it might be. So I think being able to critically think, analyze the problem, find the problem, but at the same time connect it to other things that are going on across the company, and then the greater objective and the goals of the business are all things that I've seen help make someone very successful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're kind of running a bit low on time. So I guess for the last question, someone that wants to go in this path that you took, either in the financial field or the engineer field, what would you say to them, as guidance?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that don't underestimate your ability to reach your goals. I think, as I said, I think an engineering background is applicable in so many different ways. And so I would absolutely encourage anyone to think about that as a possible direction for them in their college years if they want to move into a quantitative type of profession. So I think anything's possible. Don't underestimate your ability to achieve your goals. And there's a ton of different opportunities out there. So think about how you can relate and connect your academic background to ultimately what you want to do professionally, and don't settle for any one path. There's a lot of different options out there.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on our show. For those watching, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe below, and have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.